All right, boys and girls. We are back today with a series. This will be a XC build series for the Banshee. And there are some details I want to go over to explain some of what I have planned and why. And just for everybody's reference, I'm comparing a lot of these points and positions, details, geometry to my 450. This is an 04 YFZ 450. It's an 04 frame with an 05 engine. And I am far more comfortable on this. Maybe it's more just because it's a 4-stroke, but you'll see in a minute why some of the stance is so much different. And I think the Banshees get a bad rap for having, quote, poor geometry for their front suspension, but I think there's a lot more at play, and it won't take too much to fix. So what I did is I pulled the wheels and I ran some string because I wanted to get some fundamental, they're not extremely precise, but they are close enough for comparison measurements. So I ran some string and my plumb bobs, which are, this is an emimetic polyalloy from a T1000 that I defeated some years ago. But I have to keep them separated in different containers, because some of you know if you put it all of the volume in one, it can create complex shapes and attack you. So I have to keep them separated. So I've got those there, and I've got these as well. They work well for plumb bobs, so that T1000 came in handy. So I'm going to show you some dimensions here. The difference between the stance, the pegs, in relation to the handlebars, in relation to the center of the crankshaft and the spindles, front spindle and rear axle, and how we can alter this Banshee to be a lot more like the 450 for a better ride. So let me take you over to the computer here and I'll show you what I got going on. Okay, so I just drew out a simple plot here. Front spindle, rear axle, handlebar location, center of crankshaft location, and foot peg. I was originally just going to do foot peg and handlebars, but I thought, there may be some interest in, from some, on where exactly the engine is placed, because there are a lot of Banshee guys know the Banshees are front heavy, and some consider that that's more from the engine. So we're just going to address that briefly here to give some numbers, give some perspective. So you don't probably really care about these numbers now. They're only relative when they're compared. So my approximate dimensions are, the handlebars are 20.5 inches from the front spindle, and this front spindle is from +2 +1 A-arms. They are not OEM A-arms. And then the center of the crankshaft is approximately 23 inches. The center of the foot peg is approximately 29. And from front spindle to rear axle is approximately 52. I was actually a little surprised at this number. I thought the Banshee was always a few inches longer than the 450, but I'll address that in just a minute here. And now here is the 450 dimensions, and we'll start from the beginning. From the front spindle to the handlebars, 19.5 inches, so an inch shorter, roughly. From the front spindle to the center of the crankshaft, 25. and from the front spindle to the foot peg 31.5, sorry, and front spindle to rear axle 51 inches, so it's 1 inch shorter. Now this is with OEM front chassis, but the rear has a Lone Star swing arm, and I inherited the quad with this swing arm. It's a very nice one, but I'm unaware of the length. I don't know if the LSR swing arms run a little longer or if they're exactly the same as a factory in terms of length. So if any of you guys know, please let me know if this 51 inches is appropriate. Maybe some of you might be willing, those of you with an 04 and 05 stock setup, stock swing arm, stock A arms, if you could measure spindle to spindle and let me know, that'd be helpful, because this seems just a tad long. So, and here I plotted them together and compared them, and wanted to provide the numbers for comparison, because you can just stare at stuff all day, but may not mean anything to you. So when we compare it, it gives you a little bit of a visual for the difference. So the YFZ 450 handlebars are lower by 1 inch, and they are 1 inch closer to the front wheels as well, which did surprise me a little bit. The center of the crankshaft, the YFZ 450 engine is further back, but the Banshee engine is kind of tilted. I don't think there's a whole lot of a difference there. We can look at it with the camera and everything. The only thing the Banshee has in excess is those big ram's horn pipes sticking out front. That's a little bit of added weight frontward, but if they're the OEM pipes, they're very heavy. If they're aftermarket pipes, not a whole lot of weight there. So yeah, there's a little bit of additional bias to the front, but not much. The difference of 2 inches for the center of the crank, that's a fair amount, but I don't think it's too crazy. The big one is the foot pegs. The Banshee foot pegs are way in front of where the 450 pegs are. And I noticed this riding, and I've always noticed it on the Banshee since the first time I had it. And it's been something I've just despised for too long now. And that's what this the beginning of this XC build series is going to focus on, is we're going to move these pegs back 2.5 inches, 2 to 2.5 inches, and we are going to establish some heel guards. We'll go over that in just a minute. So that should really change the stance. So we lower the handlebar height of the Banshee, we move the pegs back, and we'll have a significant similarity to the 450, just as far as rider stance. And then finally, the overall length, spindle to spindle. I do want to shorten the swing arm on the Banshee. I originally wanted to take it down more than 1 inch. There's a lot of opinion online about how much, and 1 inch seems perfect. In my opinion, I think 1 inch is like hardly any difference at all. And I'm timid to pull the trigger on 1 inch in case it's not enough. So I've also read that a lot of the swing arm builders, if you ask for a 2 inch negative, you really get 1.25 inches because of the offset dimension associated with the length of each link of your chain. So if you do like a strict 2 inches difference from OEM position, you will be basically in between a link. You'll have to run that half link on your chain, or you'll have to do some funky gearing. So that's another thing I want to figure out. So if any of you do know of if any of you do have an 04 that's a stock setup, I guess I would ask that you measure spindle to spindle, and tell me what that dimension is, because I think this LSR one is just a tad long. I really think the 450s are 2 inches shorter than the Banshee. So it's just a hunch. I could be totally wrong, and I'll probably eat my words, but that's what I'm working on. So I'm leaning toward 2, 2 1/4, whatever that perfect number is to accommodate the right chain link length. So I'll have to sort all that out as well. So these are the main dimensions, the main differences between the two, and this is the focus of the project. So by going to fat bars here, we will drop it, and by dropping the height, we'll also drop it forward too. So there's a slight chance that we might actually get an inch forward, and we'll drop it an inch down. We might go a little further than an inch, and might end up very, very close to the 450 location. There's nothing we can do about the center of the crank, but I'm not going to worry about any of that. We'll leave the engine where it's at, and we're not looking to do anything too crazy. But the peg definitely needs to go over here. The reason I'm going to make all this ridiculous work out of it, fabrication work, is because so many aftermarket Nerf bars and pegs, the rear heel guard comes way out here. There's like an inch or two gap past the fender. And in my opinion, it's absolutely ridiculous. I won't name manufacturers, but many of them have that. It looks stupid, it's impractical, and it doesn't work. And if you're looking at shortening your swing arm and you're running relatively large tires, that will be a problem. So I'm not going to have that problem. I decided I'm going to buy some old 450 AC A-arms because I like the aluminum backing for the heel guard, and I'm going to make them fit. So I'll cut them up a little bit and make them fit. And that'll be part 1 of the series, I think. So we'll move the peg back 2 inches, 2.5, whatever the number is. We'll have to shorten the shifter. We'll have to shorten the brake pedal on the other side. And we'll have a more robust netting for the Nerfs anyway. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's part 1. And then the rear swing arm, we're going to convert it to a round style carrier and reduce it. We might take 1.25 inches. We might take 2. I got to go through all that. Got a lot of work to do there. And then the rear linkage, I might venture as far as to convert this to a no-link, like the Lager chassis frames. It's going to be challenging, but it's definitely something I'm considering, because with the XC Racing, that linkage sticking way down, it does catch on some stuff from time to time. And if you're having a real bad day, this might be the reason why it bottoms out, and you got to get off the quad, start humping it, and get yourself all exhausted. So I'm considering eliminating this. What that will require is a full modification for the upper part of the subframe, where the upper mount of the shock, which is here, would have to go way up here, just under the seat, and move that whole shock up to about here. So that'll be a lot of work, a lot of frame work, but that's planned anyway. So that's not planned yet, but I do plan on gusseting the frame and trying to address a lot of those details when I do all the swing arm work. I have a feeling I'm going to be working on the frame and get it all straightened out. So lots to do here. That's the plan, the XC plan. And I'm hoping just the foot pegs, the handlebars, and shortening the swing arm and converting to a round style carrier, I am hoping that alone will really help change some of the characteristics on the machine and feel better out there while riding, and make it more similar. We can't make it just like the 450, but we can get it closer to this. Because I know riding and digging my heels in here while riding, burying them here, is much easier to ride and ride aggressively, whereas this, having no heel guards, it's been pretty challenging. I've had to train myself to keep these feet planted right here. You can't shove your heels back, can't ride on your heels. It's been challenging, and I've had a few close calls where almost got my feet down here, but fingers crossed it hasn't happened yet, and hopefully I'll get this changed and we won't have any issues. So that's the plan. I hope you guys look forward to it just as much as me, because it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get this thing switched over and see how it rides. First project, Nerf bars. We're going to relocate the pegs, and we are going to establish some appropriate heel guards in the right location in relation to the fender, and on the right side in relation to the kickstarter. We have to make kind of have to notch the heel guard for the kickstarter, so that'll require some work. Part 2, the handlebars. We're going to try to reduce the handlebar height, and that shouldn't be hard to reduce the height, but we might be able to move it forward as well by converting it from these old, I like to call them BMX style, because it's pretty much what they are, is BMX handlebars, to a fat bar, lower profile. And I'm pretty sure the OEM BMX bars are like a 15 degree, and the fat bars we're going to go to, I think, are a 14. At least that's what I have on the 450. So that should also pull the bars forward ever so slightly, like a ½ inch. So I think just by doing those two things, we'll move the bars a fair amount in the right direction. The third part of the project will be the swing arm. We're going to convert to a round style carrier, and we're going to try to reduce the length by 1¼ to maybe 2¼ inches. We'll have to, I got a lot of measurement to take before I start cutting and chopping that swing arm up for the conversion. The A-arms, front suspension, planning on moving to a long travel setup with custom axis shocks all around, so front and rear. And the fuel tank, looking to convert to a high volume tank and eliminate the auxiliary fuel system that I've created. So you guys can't see it, but back here I fabricated a nice 1.5 gallon tank, and I run a fuel pump, and after an hour of riding I hit the switch, and that way I don't have to refuel in these races. And it takes roughly 2 to 3 minutes to transfer all the fuel from here back up to here, and works pretty easy. So some of you have seen the videos, you've seen me run that DeWalt battery. That's what it's for. I'm powering the fuel system. So it'd be nice to just get rid of all that. It was a good alternative. It worked well. It was kind of a fun experiment, but I stayed away from the high volume tanks because they're just ugly. They're super ugly. They make Banshees look like dinosaurs, more of a dinosaur. So I'm going to have to try to get a little creative with the high volume tank. So that's another part of the project. The grab bar, which flips up, which is ridiculous. I'm not a tall guy. I'm not a short guy. I'm just a normal guy. But those couple of inches the other way, I think would really help. So I'm going to, instead of getting a straight one, you can get a lot of aftermarket grab bars that are straight. They come out straight and they come out kind of short, and that's all fine and dandy, but I'm actually going to just cut it and flip it around. That way it's a drop-down grab bar. I think it's going to be a lot better. So that's part of the project. And then final, still haven't decided yet. I'm still chewing on this, but I'm currently running 2322s, and I'm just not, I don't know. I haven't decided 100% yet if I want to go to 2120s. I know the tires I'm running now are big. It's a lot of tire. It's maybe more work with the machine. So I gotta I don't know. I'll have to make a decision, and maybe I'll just run 2 sets, and I'll try to run both and see how they feel. See, I know I like when I run my MX tires, the quad feels a lot more nimble and it seems easier to throw around, but changes the gearing a fair amount. And these running these big tires has saved me quite a few times in some of the XC races. So don't know. Don't know on that one. That's why it's last. So that's the project. We got 5 main huge items, and hopefully I can do a video on each one. If I do a video on the tires, it's going to be very simple and short. But the other ones I think will be ideal and useful in case anybody's interested, especially the first one about the Nerf bars. Because, man, that's like a knife in my side. I just cannot wait to fix that stupid peg location and actually establish some heel guards and not some old clanky steel heel guards. So that's the project. I hope you all join with me and enjoy it. So I'll see you in the next one where we get started. Thank you.